Good morning. My name is Kathy Zogby, and I am an EDM 310 student at University of South Alabama. And I have a Skype assignment, and I have an interview today with a very nice gentleman who has agreed to do an interview with me, and his name is Tim White. And I would like to start the interview by having Tim tell us a little bit about himself. So, Tim, what would you like to tell us about yourself?
I've been in law enforcement for 28 years. Began my law enforcement career as a local law enforcement officer in Georgia after graduating from college, and then attended law school while working. And then after 4 years of that, got into the FBI. And I've been in the FBI now for 24 years, 18 years as an investigator. And I've worked pretty much all the violations that the FBI works, like counterterrorism, counterintelligence, violent crimes. I've also been all over the world working for the FBI. I've been in Russia and all over Northern Europe, England, Denmark, Sweden, also Norway, and I've actually worked in Iraq for a little bit of time as well. And for the last 6 years, I've been a supervisor in the FBI, and I've supervised a variety of crimes that we investigate. For the last 2 years, my responsibility has been counterintelligence and all cyber-related crimes.
Why I want to do this interview was I'm going to be a teacher, and I've taught before in the past, but since I've left the field and now I'm back, we now have technology in the classroom, which wasn't there when I taught before. So this is actually a computer technology class that I'm taking, and it's supposed to get teachers involved in using computers in their classroom. So I guess the question I have for you, the main question is, I know technology is here to stay, and it is in our classrooms. And do you have any advice for teachers on, how to keep their students safe when they're on the internet?
Sure. One of the things you had said too that you would bring up is the thing on tech. So let me talk a little bit about technology too. And since I began my law enforcement career, it was 1983. There was no technology in law enforcement, and I think this won't be the case for newer generations coming in. But the highest technology we had was a radio that you could communicate with somebody without actually seeing them.
Yeah.
Now, when I go to work, I actually have 3 different computers at my desk, and from those 3 computers, I can connect to the entire world and pretty much the entire federal government, no matter where they're stationed in the world. And I can actually do extensive investigations and never leave my office. Whereas at the beginning of my career, if you were at your desk, you were seen as doing nothing. Nowadays, you're seen as doing something if you're at your desk. So there's been a tremendous change. It's not just technology, it's been an information revolution that we've gone through. About half of all teenagers surveyed have talked to people that they don't know online. They have sent pictures and other personal information about themselves to people online that they don't know. And they have actually gone out and met people that they really don't know other than online communications out in the real world. So there's a whole bunch of stuff out there that I would caution parents about and teachers when dealing with the internet, which I'm sure will change over the next few years. But right now, the internet is wide open. It's used by child predators. It's used by people who commit all sorts of crimes. And we should be very cautious about allowing our children to use the internet. And they should never be able to use it, in my opinion, without some kind of oversight by a parent or a teacher. There are plenty of places you can go to get lots of information about how to practice safety online. I would suggest you try out the FBI.gov website. On that website, there's plenty of places you can go and see all sorts of stuff. There's an area there called cybercrime. You can go to there. If you have really young children, they actually have some games that they can play that will teach them online safety. There's also an area in the website called Fun and Games, and it gives parents and kids particular advice. For example, some of the advice there is don't give out personal information or pictures online at chat rooms, social networking sites, or bulletin boards. And then there's other stuff about don't meet someone that you've met online in person. And that, of course, I would emphasize strongly. We've had children who've been hurt and even killed in doing just that. And then obviously we need to talk to our children and explain to them that not everybody that they talk to online is who they say they are. It's a fantasy land, and a lot of people pretend to be somebody that they're not. And the last thing I would tell you is there is absolutely no security on the internet. There's no police who monitor it, no law enforcement, and there is no such thing as anonymity anymore on the internet. So when you post things about yourself, they potentially will be there for the rest of your life. So you have to be careful about that. There's also a parent's guide to internet safety on the FBI website under the reports and publications portion, and I would suggest all parents go to that. One of the things they say, and I would emphasize this, is to talk openly with your kids about the internet and the use of the internet. Use the internet with them at your side. Use parental controls. And I would suggest that parents need to be private investigators. They need to look at their kids' history, where they've gone to on the web. They need to look at the emails that they get. They need to check who it is that they're contacting. They need to look at that stuff on their cell phones as well and see who it is that they're talking to and who it is that they're calling. And I think that's a responsibility that parents have to ensure that their kids are safe while they're online and dealing with this new revolution of technology and information that we have.
Okay. Do you believe that most schools kind of have some kind of security already installed in their computer systems?
My experience has been that they don't. My experience has been that most, for example, libraries probably have the most wide open internet sites anywhere with the least restrictions. And so I'd be very cautious about having my child go to the library and use the internet. That's number one. Number two, most of the schools that I've had interaction with don't have any type of firewall system that prevents outsiders from getting into their system. And because of that, they've been hacked, and we've seen hackers get into it, sometimes just students, and actually can change grades and all sorts of other things like that. So there's very little security that I've seen through the school systems, and a lot of times the reason why is because it costs money. If you're going to get some kind of a security system on your computer network, it's not inexpensive. It's actually expensive, and it takes somebody with some technological training to be able to implement it and use it correctly. So I would say they're pretty wide open in my experience.
Okay, so we just really can't necessarily count on that in our classroom, and so we would still need to, just like the parents at home, kind of view the history, kind of keep an idea, kind of watch the children while they're on the computer and things like that to make sure that they're not going into bad places or talking with people they shouldn't be talking with and things like that, right?
Absolutely. I think it's essential, especially when kids are very young, that they must have somebody to monitor systems, because they certainly don't have the intent to do anything bad, but there are plenty of people online who are looking for opportunities to prey on children.
Okay. So I did have a question, like, did you have any secure or security type of sites you'd want to recommend? But I guess what I'm hearing from you is maybe not all of them are very affordable and not necessarily going to do the job. So you probably don't have any you'd like to recommend.
Right, and I think at this point there are so many systems you can get, like firewall systems and protection systems for your computer that are, there's just a whole network or marketplace out there for that stuff. So Some of it actually you can get very inexpensive, but typically my experience has been you get what you pay for,
Right.
for the most part on those type things. So there's a lot out there. I'm not going to actually make a suggestion as to any one over the other, but I would say that you want a very strong firewall, and I'm not sure how that's going to work for teachers, because where I sit, the best place to go to learn about online safety tips is the FBI.gov website. It is a good website, and I'm sure there are plenty of others out there as well, but I'm very familiar with ours, and I know it's a good one.
If, for instance, a kid did go somewhere where they weren't supposed to go, or if a teacher, notices something like that, or a parent, what do they do?
Well, the first thing you need to do is talk to your child and try to find out what happened if you can. Hopefully your child will talk to you. If there's been any inappropriate communications or any inappropriate sending of pictures, that potentially is a crime. Potentially that is a federal crime. If they are sending sexually explicit pictures, either way, then again, depending on whether or not we have an adult to a child, then that would be a crime. If it's child to child, it's not a federal crime, so we can't get involved. So again, the thing to do is to conduct some investigation on your own, hopefully with the cooperation of your child, and find out what's happened. If you can preserve what's happened, that's even better, though we're very good at going into the internet and finding evidence of communications or pictures back and forth. But I would say, especially with a cell phone, sometimes that stuff can be lost. So if you can take away the cell phone and provide it to us, then we potentially can preserve that evidence. But I would report it. Again, I would do the investigation on my own, and if I saw something, again, that was wholly inappropriate as far as communications, just speaking to one another, or photographs, I would report it both to the local law enforcement officers as well as to the FBI. If it's something that's not wholly inappropriate, then again, I would say the best thing to do is to do some training on your own. And you can probably find, unfortunately, you can find on the internet plenty of stories where things have gone badly for children who have met people that they don't really know on the internet and have had inappropriate discussions, and sometimes they end very badly. And the thing to do, we got to train our children to realize, unfortunately, there are child predators out there who look for opportunities to either hurt children or potentially even kill them.
So I appreciate that information on what we should do if we actually see something like that. I know if we suspect there might be some child abuse going on, physical abuse, as teachers, we're required by law to, go ahead and report it. Of course, I guess what you say, basically is if we find any situation like that, the best thing to do is just kind of contact maybe the principal, and then from there, some type of authority.
Yeah, again, I don't want to belabor that point too much, and I know I'm an employee of a company just like you guys are, but you can certainly look at this very sad incident that just happened at Penn State, where, the coach, a very celebrated coach, apparently had some information about some child abuse, reported it to his superiors, but never reported it to law enforcement. And as a result, he's not criminally liable, but as a result, apparently as of yesterday, he was fired from his job simply for not reporting it to law enforcement. So I know that puts people in a very tenuous situation as to who they have to report it to and all, but the reality is, if a crime has happened, we all have an obligation to ensure that we report it to the proper authorities and that we're doing everything that we can to protect innocent children from these predators. And these predators do exist, unfortunately. Reach out to your local law enforcement, the FBI, and everybody else. We're happy to communicate the stuff as best we can. And a lot of the stuff, like I said, we put online for people to go to and use that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for everything you've done. I really appreciate it, and keep up all the good work, and we appreciate all you do for our community.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right. Bye-bye.